When it comes to Android TV boxes, you guys know that I'm not easily impressed, but in this particular case, I am. So to find out why, let's go straight for the video. Hope that you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you in a few seconds. And before we begin this review, just to mention that a few months ago, I was invited to review this unit. I did refuse it several times because for me, a box with Wi-Fi only is not a good choice most of the times, but in this particular case I was totally wrong. Now I am reviewing this box because many of you did ask, hey Robert, bring the Mi Box 3 to the channel so that we know your feedback, and what I can say is that this box really gave me a great experience, and as you guys will see in just a few seconds. So that being said, and that's taken out of the way, let's start with this review, and starting with the unboxing experience. As always, I'll post on screen some images so that you guys can see, and on your left side of the screen, as always, the contents. Now moving ahead to a closer look, in terms of build quality, this box has a really nice build quality with a nice design. It doesn't feel cheap at all. Although it is cheap, it doesn't feel cheap, and I really like these round edges right over here, but design is something that it's very subjective, so it will depend on our personal taste. Now in terms of connectivity, this was one of the things that prevented me from getting this box early, because as you can see there on the images, the connectivity is on the back, and all we have there is a power input jack, a USB 2.0, HDMI, and a audio output, and that is it. Usually we have Ethernet connection so that we can have a fast connection, especially for those like me that transfer or that use a NAS unit to have their multimedia collection then transfer to the Android TV boxes. And usually Blu-ray MKV files with 20 gigs, 25 gigs are not easy to bring to a machine like this, but we will take a closer look at that in just a few seconds. Now talking about specifications, this machine is running the AM Logic S905, 2 GB of RAM and 8 GB of flash storage width, which is something that we have seen here on the channel a lot, and it provides a great experience for what we do with these machines. Now at this moment, usually I would share with you the type of launcher that the machine has, and then the launcher that I usually install on any other box. But this particular box comes with Android TV OS, and that brings advantages and disadvantages like we have seen on the past here on the channel, especially in terms of the NVIDIA Shield, where I shared my opinion. But really quickly, one of the advantages in terms of setting up this device, if I've got an Android tablet or an Android phone, as you guys can see on screen, it's really quick to set up, and I don't need to insert all my details once again, because it will transfer everything from my tablet, which in this particular case was the Xiaomi Mi Pad 2, to the Android TV OS itself. Now one of the disadvantages is that we cannot install any other launcher, so we need to like this launcher, because this is the one that we are going to have for the rest of the duration of any device that has this launcher. One other limitation is that the Play Store is limited. It is only able to search for apps that are designed for the Android TV OS experience. So if we want to install any other app that is not designed for this launcher, if I can say so, or operating system, which is more precise, then we will need to sideload the apps, but I will talk a little bit about that in just a few seconds. Now in terms of firmware updates, the Mi Box 3 comes with online updates, as you guys can see on screen, and that is great, as I always mention on any Android TV box, because we don't have to mess around with manual updates. And in terms of the remote control included, what I can say, guys, is that this remote reminds me of any other basic remote, with the exception that it works great even when we point it out in a different direction. It also has the voice search function, which might be very useful for some, and besides that, what I can say is that for those of you that are going to use this machine as Google wants us to use, this Android TV remote will be more than enough. Nonetheless, when we talk about side-loading apps, I'm going to give you an example. If you want to install a browser and if you want to use that browser, then this remote will become useless, and there's no other word for that. And in that particular case, I will always advise a wireless remote so that we can search around and use the air mouse capability so that we can use this app and the other apps that we will see in just a few seconds as well, because they were not optimized for the Android TV OS. Now, in terms of gamepads, I did test it out with the iPega 9028 and the Logitech F710, and they worked great. Now, I do imagine that they will work across all the gamepads that I already reviewed, but these were the ones that I tested out at this moment. And now moving on to the benchmarks so that you guys can compare with the other machines. I'm showing you on screen, and what you can see is that in terms of the overall benchmarks, the results are in line with devices with the Aimlogic S905. Some values a bit lower, some values a bit up, but nothing huge. The only thing that I would like to notice there is the Wi-Fi speeds that I was impressed. Usually through Wi-Fi, especially machines without external antennas, I usually don't get this much of speed. As you can see, reaching the maximum of my internet connection, 200 megabits per second of download and 20 megabits per second of upload, and it was maxing out, as you can see, which usually, once again, I can only get these kind of speeds in machines like the Minix U9H, which has an external antenna, or the Nvidia Shield, which doesn't have but has a great Wi-Fi connectivity. So I was really happy to see the Mi Box 3 reaching out these speeds. And I was really happy, especially because this machine is limited by Wi-Fi only. Usually on other machines, when the Wi-Fi is not so good, what I say is that use the Ethernet connection, which is what I do to get the best experience possible. Now, in this particular case, if the Wi-Fi is not good enough, and one advice there, guys, the box is not the only thing that needs to get the good Wi-Fi. You will need a good network on your house so that you can have the same performance that I have right over here. If you don't have, then this will not be a good choice. But if you have a good network, then I'm sure that you will have a great experience as I did, and I will leave some links down below so that you can check it out, how I've got my network, so that you can have an idea if you need to upgrade something or not. And now moving to the TV experience with this machine and the real world experience. Starting with Netflix, we can play it up to HD quality without any issues at all. YouTube 1080 with a very smooth video playback. Then I did use my ISP app for the TV, and guess what? I did have to sideload it because it was not available on the Google Play Store, and the remote in this particular case once again becomes useless. I have to use any other remote if I don't want to use a mouse, as you can see. But in terms of the experience with the app was great, but just a heads up that there will be apps that are not optimized for the Android TV OS, and the only way to get around is either not using it or use with another remote. Then moving ahead to Kodi, I did install the latest version at this moment, which is 17.3, and it works great in all formats that I tested out, and you will see all the details on the left side of the screen. Now, the only issue that I had was playing 4K H.265 10-bit videos with really high bitrate files, so it was not enough. There is a point at the beginning, middle of the movie that it will start to buffer and it will start to lose audio, and hopefully I can share with you a little bit. But that is the feedback that I would suggest. So if you are someone that plays a lot of 4K 10-bit H.265 videos, then this is probably not the best option. Now, where I am impressed is the next test that I did, which I do on every machine, and not all are capable of passing this, which is to play a Blu-ray MKV 1080 H.264 video uncompressed. So we are talking about, well, a little bit of compression. We are talking about 20 to 25 gigabytes of data, and the Mi Box 3 just passed. No issues at all. And as you guys can see there, I did play around with a few movies, Lord of the Rings, Avengers, and so on. And what I can see is that it played perfectly. And when I mean that I'm impressed is this feature alone, because this is the way that I use Kodi. I do have my DVD, Blu-ray, sorry, and then I rip them to my NAS, and after that I do transfer them to the Android TV boxes that I've got, usually on the Ethernet connection. In this particular case, it is using the Wi-Fi connection. And here I would like to mention that besides this box, I've got two NVIDIA Shields that work this way as well, Wi-Fi, and then the Minix U9H and the Minix U1. And these are the only boxes that I've got at this moment that are capable of achieving this, and that is why I'm impressed with this budget machine right over here with Wi-Fi only. Now, in terms of gaming, I did test it out with one of my favorite games, which is Respawnables, and this is bad news because it did not work. Respawnables is not available for this type of device, the Android TV OS. I did search around for AP keys. I did try a few AP keys, but they did not work. It's not a hardware issue, it is a firmware issue. So have this in mind, that there will be a few apps that we cannot run. Now, in terms of performance itself, I did install Asphalt 8 Airborne, as you guys can see on screen, played great. And Despicable Me, which although it is a light game, I really enjoy playing it with my kids. So as you guys can see, hardware wise it will be able to play anything, just be the firmware situation that sometimes will not be able to install any game that we want. Now, next there was another concern of mine, which was about game stream, which is something that we love, and I'm happy to say that it played flawless, no issues at all, 1080 with 60 frames per second over the Wi-Fi network. And as you guys can see, I did play around with Grid Auto Sport, which is a really nice car racing game, and also Gas Guzzlers, which it is one of the fantastic games that I've got right over here. I really enjoy playing it. As you guys can see there, the experience was flawless, no issues at all. And then finally, I did test it out with AirPlay, transferring content from my Mac to the Android TV box, and it was not perfect. Here there were a few glitches I would consider acceptable, but I have to mention that it was not perfect. And hopefully you can see on screen that there is from time to time a little hiccup over there on the image. The audio was okay, but the image sometimes had an hiccup or two here and there. So in conclusion, guys, in my opinion, the Mi Box 3 is great, especially for three types of users. Now, the first one is someone that already has a great Wi-Fi connectivity, because if we don't, then this machine doesn't have any other connectivity solution, and the experience will not be as great or as good as I did show you right over here. Now, the second type of user is someone that enjoys the Android TV OS and will use this machine as Google wants us to use, which is to install only the apps that were designed and optimized for the Android TV OS itself, and that is it. And finally, the third type of user, I would say that besides having a great network and enjoying Android TV OS, it's someone that if they want to install any other app, doesn't mind to side load the apps and purchase a wireless remote so that can have a better experience, and so on and so forth. So these are the three type of person that I believe that would be very happy with a machine like this, because it will deliver a great experience at a very low cost comparing to other machines with the Android TV OS, namely the NVIDIA Shield, although the hardware is completely different. Guys, this is my opinion. Hopefully this video will help you to decide if this machine is for you or not. Don't forget to comment down below your opinion. As always, my name is Roberto George, and I'll see you on the next one.